I don't know if you've gotten to talk and meet and discuss beforehand how you would like this to go.
So she can go. Hi, how are you doing? Nice to meet you. I like your photo.
Thank you. I did a book called Permission to Win, so that was the
Cover page?
yeah. I'd be giving you thumbs up. Give yourself permission.
So how would you like this set up? Do you want like this, or you're both up here at the same time? Do you want me to move chairs and just stand? What is it that you would like?
It's truly up to you. Your lead, Speaking Bell, you want to just go in the front and I go behind you, or okay? That works.
I mean, I could talk on it.
Okay.
It's fine. I mean, I don't need the chair.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was saying, to move the chair,
Yeah.
and I'll just sit, and you go first. Okay.
I just move the chair.
Should be good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unorthodox.
Unorthodox is good. Orthodox is good. Okay, and your last name?
Sinha.
Gowri Sinha.
Gowri Sinha.
Gowri Sinha.
If you say Gowri, it's a different word. However, it means fair in Hindi.
Okay.
Gowri means fair in Hindi, which is still okay, though I'm not fair. But my actual name is Gowri.
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 So am I saying it right then? Gowri.
You have to put the ow in the middle.
Gowri.
Yeah.
Gowri.
That's good.
Gowri.
Yes, the ow in the middle. Yes.
Gowri. Gowri. Gowri Sinha.
Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Hello and welcome. I would like to welcome you to the presentation, Building Powerful Business Habits. And our first speaker today is Gowri Sinha.
Perfect. That's great.
Thanks so much, Julia. Thank you. I really appreciate you took the effort because I must share this Gowri is a South Indian way of pronouncing. Part of India is the south. So most people, even from the north, do not pronounce it right. From the north of India,
people even from India don't pronounce it right.
they do not pronounce it right.
Huh.
Most people from the north also say Gowri. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. This is a topic I'm passionate about, and I'm very happy to be having this opportunity to talk about it to all of you. I will just give a very brief introduction about myself. I'm a management graduated 25 years ago, and I've been working in consulting for many years. Initially strategy and process consulting. Then I moved on to the field of learning and development because I realized my own personal development and people development was the area that really energized me and motivates me. So, and now I'm a coach, come a leadership consultant. I work with organizations and leaders and teams to make them more effective, help them become more effective. So, this is a very inspiring quote I read the other day. You earn your trophies at practice. You just pick them up at competitions. It's one of the most inspiring quote I ever heard. So much so that I love to make it my company's tagline, but somebody has quoted it, so I can't do that. So, the next 15 minutes is going to be about what drives us to be effective in our workplace. What are the things that we need to bring repeatedly, consistently to our workplace to get the outcomes that we want? So, I work with this CEO, and she's, not the CEO, business leader and co-founder of a very successful design and manufacturing company. She has been a super achiever throughout her life, throughout the school, college, and work. This company she founded and nurtured has grown 6 times in the last 6 years. 10 times in the last 6 years. Our team size had quadrupled in the last 2 years. Our team members loved her, her CEO loved her, her clients adored her. So what is the climax here? She had one of the most stressful work life you could visualize. Every day in our office, the floor was about firefighting. The floor was filled with she and her and the team members having acrimonious fights with their vendors, arguments with their vendors. Within the team, blame game happening. Loud phone calls were the norm of the day. Just chaos everywhere. Every day was firefighting. So much so that she even started thinking of taking a break from this baby, the baby she has nurtured and she's lives and breathes for. In fact, so much so that the new recruits to their company and the industry thought that, this is the norm of the industry. This is how this industry works. That, there's always acrimonious fights every day. So what do you think could be happening here? Where could she be going wrong? The super achiever throughout her life. Everything control it all? Yeah, that's it. It's like, you don't know her. I'm impressed. What, anything else?
Bringing in other people. In the half I understood from your topic, is it just about, others in terms of the system, not only for herself.
I would answer yes. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Both of you are absolutely right. There are multiple components to that. Yes, one is controlling, one is not bringing in the other people into the system, into our plans. So the day she started having a to-do list, the day she started planning scheduled meetings with her team members, the day she started having a calendar in place, her stress levels dropped by 60%. The week she started having weekly team meetings, the week she started giving a platform for her team members to communicate and problem solve together, the stress levels on the floor dropped by 60%. So, why is it so difficult for us to do the hindsight operation, right? It seems so obvious, right? Why wasn't she doing it? She's the founder, she's the business leader. But why is it so difficult for us to do it? Why do we always, not always, many of us do, why do many of us equate stress at workplace to effectiveness at workplace? Why do we do that? Why the entire world of brain science, human behavior, organizational psychology, the success stories you and I have experienced, we have seen, heard, talked about, they all tell us otherwise. Still, why is it so difficult for us to do? There could be many reasons. I'm sure each of us, in our experience, we have different reasons. But in my experience, I think one of the most common reasons to this is we do not set aside consistent, regular, repeated time for the things that we need to do daily to be effective in the areas of our work. It sounds simple. It is simple, but it's not easy. That's the catch. That's why many of us don't do it. So why don't you do it? Because it is not easy. It is simple and not easy. And it all arises from something as remembered as an evolution of the human brain. Our brain is designed to resist any change. Our brain is designed to protect us from anything that is new, anything that is uncertain, anything that is scary. So our brain is wired to give us a warning whenever we try to do something uncomfortable. Our brain is wired that We'll only put worry, fear, hesitation, doubt, anxiety, stress, whenever our brain thinks of trying to do something new. Hence it's so difficult. Hence it is not easy. And to overcome this hesitations of the brain and this pulling us back, the part of the brain, requires an enormous amount of energy. And it's called activation energy. And it's not my term. It has been brought into human behavior. It's a chemical term, but it's been brought into human behavior by this very eminent psychologist, professor. Let me see if I get his name right. Mehan Csikszentmihalyi. That's, I spent time in learning how to pronounce this. Yeah, he's a very eminent professor. He's the author of the book called Flow. If you haven't read it, do look it up. It's very, very interesting, seminal book. So he brought this term into human behavior. It's called activation energy. That's the energy required for us to overcome the primeval survival instinct of our brain and start doing something new. So one of the work my company does is to help leaders to create this activation energy. We'll talk about that later. But so this is what we are grappling with. What is important for us to become effective in work is to create a set of habits. The way to overcome this, what I talked about in terms of what stops us from becoming effective, what stops us from doing something new, it's about building effective habits. Habit at its essence is just setting aside time and place for the things that we want to do in our daily life. At its essence is just that. Setting aside a time and place for the things we want to do in the various facets of our life. Right? So all of us would have habits in certain facets. Some of us want to do a lot more in different facets of our life. But we are not able to set aside. Very simply, like brushing our teeth. How many times in your life will you say that, oh, today I didn't have time to brush my teeth?
Never.
Never. Yeah, myself never. Maybe once, maybe because I was traveling somewhere and I was on the train and the wash basin wasn't clean, but never. So basically, if something is important to us, if becoming very highly effective in our workplace is important to us, then why are we not setting aside time and place to do the things that we want to do in each facet of our life? Right? That's the question for us to reflect upon. Each of us to reflect upon. One CEO I know, he knew that his company is open to being disrupted by startups. So what he was very particular that he and his leadership team should be out there getting to know what is happening in the marketplace, what is the new idea in the marketplace, and what they should be doing to test new ideas, constantly testing and bringing it to the customer. So what he instituted practice, at every monthly meeting of their top leadership team, they would get somebody, a new person from a different industry to come and talk to them. This is not something normal. It required the CEO to have an enormous amount to overcome a lot of resistance, first internally and even with the rest of the team, to be able to institute this practice. But he did this because he knew he had to do. That team also adopted one other thing. Each of them owned one project in their functional area that they knew had the most chances of failing, most likely to fail. And they personally would review it every week.
Fail as often as possible.
Yes. And they would ensure that they spend time with that team, personally reviewing it every week and guiding them. Right? And it became an institutionalized habit of the organization. Right? Yeah,
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, Absolutely, it is an interactive session.
There's a company who celebrates failure, whatever failure means. I don't know, I mean, I would not say failure, so but you know, when you don't reach what you actually want to do, you reach something else.
Right.
It's not failure, but a lot of people tell it failure. It's a huge company. I don't know what it is.
I have a couple of examples.
Really?
I think one I read about is NASA does that every time the rocket they fire explodes,
Exactly.
Yes.
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 NASA.
Yes.
Yes.
they all clap
Yeah.
and they all celebrate.
TED Talk. Yes.
Yes.
Some guy who trained them or something. Yeah, super.
So they do that. And I can also give you an Indian example, which a company adopted. And the company I worked with years ago. It's a restaurant chain. The Indians here will know Barbecue Nation.
Yes.
Yes. So they were having huge problem with when they started off initially, there was like quality and customer satisfaction, and they wanted to be really at the best. Right? So then another thing the team finally adopted was any time at the end of the day, the entire crew, the floor, they would all get together. The manager would be there. They would all stand in a circle, and whoever had committed a mistake that day will have to put up their hand and say, I did a mistake, and share the mistake, and everybody else will applaud. Because they saw that as an opportunity to learn. So,
They explain as well, or is it just I did a mistake?
yeah, they share what is the mistake they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the solution?
That they would take up later,
Definitely.
but that time was acknowledge the mistake and everybody applauds. So that was very interesting, and it really does that. So Barbecue Nation, those who are not aware of it, is one of the good chains.
It grown. It really
So,
grown.
so in spite of their founder had an untimely death, but the organization is strong enough, they pick it up and grow. So, but most of us have not experienced the power of doing this. I haven't, not in all the facets of my work. I have done in some areas of my life and my work, but not in all facets. I'm sure you also would have seen the power of having some habits in some areas of your life. I would like to hear from each of you. Yeah?
It's not a continuous habit that I have, but a habit that I so much want to have. I'm not there, but I am going there.
You're close.
I'm close, getting closer. So I had attended one of such sessions, and the speaker said a very interesting thing. We get caught up in doing urgent things, and we forget to focus on important things. Which is, we keep firefighting in our business. We keep focusing. Our focus is so shallow. We keep focusing on the issues that we're facing, and we try to solve them. But we forget to see the bigger picture. Because yes, so when you get too much involved in the operation, you forget the bigger picture of it. And then he said that make a list of important things that you want to do for your business, and decide to spend 15 minutes thinking about it. The task can be big, but you can just spend 15 minutes at an exact time of the day, sit at the exact place every single day, and just think about it and move it forward. So I have started doing it. I do it 4 days a week. So, but it has to be 7 days a week. I'm going there. I'm reaching there.
Fantastic. We'll pass on the mic and then I think.
I believe the daily rituals, I do it on a very small level though. I take out 5 best things of the whole day and reflect at the end of the day. So it gives me a wonderful feeling. And 2, 3 bad things that are from my side, what needs to be improved. So that's how I plan that I can improve the things that I have.
I think I implemented a couple of rituals for myself, starting in the morning, midday, and at night. So in the morning, I usually spend 1 hour of meditation in different ways. I also prepare my day, usually at night, and then I finish it like, what is my day motto, and what is the feeling I want to have during the day. And then midday, so I have a list, so which I ask, specific questions in the morning, specific question at midday, and then at night, before going to sleep or something like that. And the question can be like, okay, what went really well? What did I do good? like, okay, good. What can I improve if I would have the chance to do it again? So, kind of this question, whatever is helpful, and sometimes they are changing as well. And I love the routine of movement, of fitness in any way. So this is also part of my routine when I start, thinking about some, it's like getting pregnant with a specific problem or thought, whatever it is. So I take this before sleeping, so okay, let's think about it, and the next morning I'm asking, okay, what is the outcome now? Subconscious mind activation.
That's good. Thank you.
I think for me, it's having an accountability coach. So it's having that person that you can speak to and learn from, because I would say that I'm also sometimes guilty of firefighting, and I think that's the issue. It's a small business because you've got too many calls on your time, and I think that when you are open to being contactable, one of the things that you pride yourself on is that people can contact you. It can actually become a problem. So it's one of those things that we're sort of working on, about sort of saying that I'm only going to respond to emails at certain times of the day, and I'm only going to, I'm going to book out meetings on, a specific part, so if it's, I'm doing, a meetings with clients or whatever, it's on, it's not going to be every day. So you've got time as well, and I take time out again to think about the bigger picture, about where we're driving the business forward, because I think it is really, it's really hard, especially when you've got so many roles, where not only do you have the business, if you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a friend, you're a daughter, you've got other commitments. And I try, and for me, taking the dogs out at night for a walk, I try to always do that, because again, that's my time for meditation, and sort of, again, a lot of the inspiration comes either when I'm in the car, or when I'm walking the dogs, or in the shower. Those tend to be the three places, and I think that's because you're going into your subconscious, and I think that when you are in that, that's again where the best ideas come from.
Or the loop.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people have to.
How would you have it that you would like to share?
Well, one of the habits I've really started to focus on more is spending time as in personal development daily. So it might be a combination of things, whether it's like dumping my brain in the morning, so it's like practicing journaling. I think it really helps me clear my mind and to get very effective. Or even just praying and saying affirmations. I try to do that daily, and it really helps me in, focusing on myself as well as investing time in my business. Because initially, I would just get up, probably jump on social media, respond to the requests of others, and then what I realized is that before the middle of the day, I'm very just overwhelmed and burning. So I try to focus on me first, and then let everything else come.
Great. Yeah.
Well, I am employed with a company as well as my own business, and being a mom and all the family stuff that goes. So it's a bit of a balancing act. And Lisa Nichols, this woman in the States, talks about using your employment as a way to fund your dream. And so what I think my body is made for the time zone of Hawaii, actually, though it's doing really well here. But getting up in the morning is so hard for me to do. My prime hours are 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. in my time zone in Canada. But I've started making myself get up even earlier so that I can, even if I fart around and only get 30 minutes of that in the day, I like to, sometimes I can devote as much as an hour and a half a day, but I make sure that I sit down at my computer and devote some time to nurturing or watering, I think like a watering can, into my business and doing things that are going to further my business and my outreach and then I take off that hat, I go to work and I wear that hat. But even though that's taking away my wonderful, precious sleep time, I don't feel exhausted from it like I thought I would. It actually energizes me now that I have established that habit. And that was part of my excuse that I would make is, I'm just too tired to really do anything more. And so the result was my business was stagnating. Who would have figured? But so the value in establishing those habits, it can be uncomfortable at first, but the value in the long run, the payoff far outweighs any of the initial discomfort.
In fact, when you talked about exhaustion, you all must have heard of Shah Rukh Khan.
I beg your pardon?
You all must have heard of Shah Rukh Khan.
Yes.
He's the superstar of the Indian film industry. He rarely sleeps. So he has to work out, right? To be fit and everything. He doesn't really like it. But whatever time he comes home from the shoot, even if it's 2 p.m. in the night, 2 a.m. in the night, apparently he puts in 2 hours. He has, of course, a gym, the full-fledged gym at his house. He puts in 2 hours at the gym, then he goes to sleep. He sleeps for 3 hours every day average. That's all he needs, because he's so energized.
Forget about him. What about Modi? You understood about Modi's lifestyle?
No.
I don't know how long he can continue in that, but he meditates a lot, and I think he hardly sleeps. And he's hardly on his own. So he always has people. It's like giving a meeting, within 10 minutes going to the emperor.
Okay.
In his meditative state, he literally gets outside, so it takes him to another dimension of sleep. So
Meditation is far better and
Yes.
recovering
Yes.
than sleeping.
That's what I said, it takes him to another dimension of subconsciousness. Yeah.
We were sharing about whatever effective habit that we practice in our daily life. Would you like to share your?
Upon waking up, I would already imagine the good things that will happen for the day, how it will look like. And then afterwards, I pray. Yeah, I have composed some prayer. And then I have a book that I read. I've read it for so many years already. I go over it. It's Younger by the Day. So 365 days, yeah. So I just read it one day at a time and then make some notes. After, I had my New Year's resolution to practice yoga. So it's a New Year's resolution. Then I only reached like 15, the 15 sets, but I haven't done more. So it stops when I travel. So I'm not able to practice it because I have to carry some mat, because I do travel a lot. So, and that includes also water.
Great, thank you.
And most likely we'll talk about it. It's just a few habits that I have that's daily that I've been practicing for the last 30 years. So again, and I'm going to talk about it when I get up, again, it's choices that you make, and it boils down to a commitment and how important it is to you. Because one side of you, meaning your body versus your business or your workplace, one of the things I understand for sure is that you can't master in your work nor your business if you don't master your body, which is encompasses your mind. So once you start there, that's where the change, that's where the shift, that's where the magic takes place in terms of you up-leveling or levitating in your business. So those are all subconscious habits that we form, and they are conscious first till they become unconscious. So you do them for so long, or it's just like breathing. So even in business, when things go awry, I've been in business for myself for the past 15 years. So it's up and down, it's all over the place. But it's these several things that you do daily that keeps you in it no matter what. So a lot of times my clients will say that life comes, when you're talking about working a regular job and then trying to create your own business inside of it, and then you have a family and life comes, like really get the time to fit that in. But when you pretty much have your daily habits that you do that always gives you clarity, that gives you that mental state, because that's where they come from. Like she said, that it includes movement, it includes sitting still. There's so many things that you can get to do and in your business. And when you can do that and in doing your business without just being busy in your business, then you can take your business to the next level. But it's a commitment beyond it, and then it becomes that habit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is a science to
Yes.
forming habits. You all would know about the cycle of habit formation. There is a trigger, then there is a cue, and there is a response to that, the action we take in response to that. And as it keeps happening, then it gets into a habit, right? So given such enough triggers and corresponding actions, it becomes a habit over a period of time, right? And organically it will become a habit. But we cannot afford that in our workplace. It's not what we want for our work, not for ourselves and not for our teams, right? At our workplace, we want to develop effective habits, successful habits as fast as possible, as soon as possible. This is what our boss wants from us, this is what we want from ourselves, we want from our team. Right? So how do we do that? It's, as I said, it is not easy. But it is possible, right? It is to setting aside a daily time and place for doing the things that is important for us at different facets of our work. In the earlier example I shared about the business leader, she took care of a very basic set of habits in terms of time management and planning. But she cannot just rest with that. She will need to develop even more effective habits or much more bigger challenges that her team will face. So in the example of the CEO that I shared, right, there are multiple levels of habits he would have built to reach at this level where he's looking at innovation, how he could bring innovation to his company, right? For example, an R&D person, suppose the outcome that he wants is to bring cutting-edge technologies, right? To be able to test different ideas. Then the kind of effective habits he needs to build every day is to be reading a technical publications every day, to be part of the think tank forums, to set aside time for himself and his team to ideate on new ideas. These are the habits that will help him to reach the outcome that he wants, which is to be in the forefront of new research, bringing more new technology. So similarly, a salesperson, if he wants to reach for excellence in sales, then he has to go beyond tracking his pipeline to say, not just increasing the pipeline, but he has to go to looking at what is the quality of my pipeline? What is the quality of the sales process my team is following? Right? How do I increase my understanding of consumer psychology in this today's changing time? So that is the kind of habits we need to develop for excellence in our work. So there are two levels of habits. One is for just basic effectiveness. Then we have a different set of habits for moving towards excellence in our workplace. And with that, let me conclude since thank you so much.
Before I get started and tell you who I am, I just want to leave with you, when you talk about being a fire starter, you can either be one person that puts out a fire starter, right? So that means you're evolutionist or revolutionist, and in terms of your business or where you work at. So I'm Candice, Camille, and I'm known as a wellologist simply because I thought it was a good idea not to be called a coach, and for no other reason. So I made it up. So you get to do that for yourself if you choose to. So even as you work and start to build your habits and what you do, the choice is really yours, especially when you're an entrepreneur. When you're going to work and you work with somebody else, the habit is almost created for you once you get inside. There's a habit for a time that you have to be there. So if you work 9 to 5, 11 to 7,
7 to 3, whatever that is. You know the habits that's formed when you have to get up. If you have a family, you have to get up, you have to do this. You know, for your children, your husband, you have to do this, you know, to get dressed, to go to work, make sure you clock in on time, get your work done. I come from corporate 28 years before I fired my boss. And I had a habit for when I was a basic employee with certain things I had to do. When I was a union president, there were certain habits that I had to do. When I was assistant director of a corner care facility, there's certain things I have to do. And as an entrepreneur, it changed all the game because I no longer had to get up to go to work 9 to 5. You know, I didn't have an 8-hour day. You know, so you didn't have that structure. So it's a whole different type of habits that has to be formed in excellence, and especially in entrepreneurship. You know, it's like, okay, alarm clock didn't go up at 5 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock now, and I can do a doggone thing in my business. I was like, okay, I'm the boss. You know, you're the boss. You don't have to get up. You don't have to do this. But one of the things about going in 9 to 5, 11 to 7, or whatever into the corporations, that structure must remain the same when you get into your business. So the habits that's created, we go to work, if you think about it, we give 10 hours to our jobs, you know, by basic travel time, getting up, getting ready. And that's if you work a basic 8-hour day. You know, who works a basic 8-hour day? Anybody? You know, most of the time we're at our jobs 9 or 10 hours. In a day, there's, 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week, and you give most of that to your job. To your job, right? So actually in a week's time, when she's talking about sleeping, and I'm one that don't think sleep is overrated, it's not something you can keep doing for the rest of your life if you don't transcend into a meditative state. It will break the body. Go to sleep. So, go to sleep, especially 10 to 2. 10 to 2 is when your body starts to shed and rebuild, scientifically. So you want to make sure that the body is in order, number one. And inside your business, when you're talking about creating what you have to do on a daily level, what is that thing? What is that habit every single day that you must do in your business? Anybody know the answer to that? You must master your body before you can master your business. Because it's you that's the primary that's behind your business, right? If you break, what happens to your business? The business breaks. The business breaks. Especially if you are the OOO. Anybody know what that means? That's the only operating officer. So we call ourselves the CEO, but most of us that start out business is the OOO.
Yes.
You know, when I started my first bed and breakfast, I went from the CEO to the plumber. That's just how that worked. So, I was in meetings to clean the toilet. That's just how it works. Because you didn't have help then. You weren't in that team building stages. So it's just you. So you figure what kind of habits that you have to create to make sure now, I don't know if any of you, Michael Kerber's book, if you ever, what's the name of it?
The E-Myth.
The E-Myth. And even in the E-Myth Mastery, it talks about what you have to do in your business and what you have to let go and the habits you have to create and what you have to form and who are you. When I first read the book, I was all of them. And you're supposed to be one. So what happens, that's right. So what happens, and then he goes to an upper level when he talks about mastery. So what habits do you have to do? And a lot of the times it has to do with your emotions. You're talking about the 4 quadrants that you must work in to create good habits. Is your EQ, which is your intelligent quadrant, right? I mean, your IQ is your intelligence. Then you got your EQ, which is your emotional. You got your SQ, which is your spiritual, and your PQ, which is your, spiritual and physical. Getting all tongue-tied here. But you got 4 quadrants, your intelligence, your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical, that you're tapping into every day to create these habits. And how long do you think it takes to create a habit? Good or bad?
90 days.
61 days.
Say it again.
66.
66.
30 is obsolete.
Come on now. 60, see, we're taught 21 days. If I do this thing for 21 days, it's now a habit. No. It's a start of one. There's 3 cycles after that, which goes through 66 days before it gets deep down into your core to something that you start to do. 66 days. So when you're starting something, and one of the things about habits, we got all of these bad habits, but we keep trying to add on. You can't keep adding on, you replace. You replace a good habit with a bad habit. You got to take something away. We can't keep putting stuff on and not take away. And besides, why would you want to hold on to a bad habit? So one bad habit that I would like everybody to release is that the sitting is the new smoking. Get up. You got to get up, especially as working entrepreneur. We sit 12 to 14 hours a day. So again, my background, I'm a personal trainer. I own a few gyms. So I work out bodies every day. I build body equity and mind equity. This is the side of me that I absolutely love, is the mind equity. Because I can always say you can't get your body tight till you get your mind right. So I tap into the body through the mind. See, we sit down, we don't do a lot. And even as the lady says back here, she travels a lot, so you can't keep to your routine. You have to do something. You have to do something in your body to clear your mind. That's the only way to get the endorphins up. That's going to change things. So if you sit down and you're putting out fires and you're busy, but you're just busy, but you're not building business, you got to figure out, what do I have to do? I can't get a creative thought. I'm sitting here, I done read this sentence 5 times and I still don't know what the hell it says. I just don't know what it says. You got to get up. You got to do something differently. If you want to change your thought process and change the way you feel, you got to change what you're doing. So if you're consistently sitting in front of this pad, sitting in front of the computer, trying to figure out what next do I have to do, whether it's in your office, or if it's at your job. You know, we sit in little cubicles, so we have our desk there. It's like a 2x2, and you in it and you surround. You start out, it was a 6x6. Well, about time the day is over, it feels like a 2x2 because the walls is caving in on you. You don't know what to do, and your mind hasn't set because you haven't fed it anything. You haven't given it any protein. You haven't given it any carbohydrates. You're sitting down and you're eating crap. You're snacking. You're snacking. You're snacking. I gotta get finished. I'm snacking. I'm eating sugar. It dulls the thought, so you can't get finished. So one of the things about it that we are what we eat. So when you're talking about trying to create habits in any form, anywhere, you know, you want to go get a better thought, you got to go get something green, go eat a piece of broccoli. I kid you not. So it's a matter of what it is that you're doing in your body to create excellence. Because if you can create excellence inside of you, you can create excellence inside of your business. No matter you're funding it with what you're working, or you're just working because you're too busy putting out fires. And I just say to you on that, the answer to who doesn't have to be you. Find somebody else to help you put out the fires. You know, so that's basically what that is. Again, we become that OOO.
Yeah.
And we don't have to. There's interns, there's children, you know. You know, my crew at one point, especially in the summertime, I just go to colleges and get a whole bunch of kids and have them work for me through the summer. That's to do it. So get some help with it so you can work on your business, so you not have to know. And one of the things about creating business and habits, in the morning when you get up or even before you go to bed, what's your end game in your business? And I come straight from an entrepreneurship because it's structure that you have to create. You know, so you get up and say, what's my end game in business? So there's 3 questions that you should ask yourself every single day. How did I win in my body? Like, what did you do in your body? Answer that question in 3 parts. All right, what did you do for yourself? The next one is, what did I do for my business? What did I do? What was the goal? What was the end game for today? Right? What was it? Was I to contact 5, 6, 7 more people? What is it that you wanted to do to get to your next level in business? And the third thing is that because we're in business, we like to say we're in business, I'm a coach, I'm a wellologist to help people, yada, yada, yada. We're in business to make money. How much money did you make? So you're talking about your body, your business, your bank. When you think about that during the course of your day and building your habits, those are some of the questions you want to ask yourself. Because a lot of the times we're working on business, we go to work, we're working on our money. Because when we go to work, actually we're working on our money. Because when you finish work at the 15th or 30th of the month, at the end of the week, every 2 weeks, however you get paid, you're looking for your check, right? Somebody better give me my check because I came here every day. You know, yes, I like what I do, but don't give me my money. I'm going to look for another job, right? So that's what you do. You ask those questions, but more importantly, in your mind and the terms of what you have to do to start building yourself up to build your business. And she said it best. What are the things that you do daily for yourself? Can anybody tell me one of the habits that they just do daily? Not in their business, for yourself.
Praying, walking my dogs.
Walking your dogs.
Reading and running.
Read the Bible like that. Can you do it together?
Reading in the morning, running in the evening.
Absolutely. What about you?
I swim.
You swim.
For me, it's just praying.
Praying.
Mm-hmm. Mine is the same, spiritual practice in the morning.
What about you?
I just sit with a soothing cup of tea and just have that time just for me.
Very good. Anybody else? What do you do?
I cook too. I sing. I chew.
Okay.
And I do energy work.
Very good. What about you? Yoga?
Yeah, I started stretching.
Oh, good. About you in the back?
Morning walk.
Morning walk? Same? You?
Do yoga, meditation.
Yes. And that's what you do. Those are the things. I call them my doctors that I visit every day. I visit 8 doctors daily. Can you imagine? Can you imagine going to the doctor 8 times a day to create habits? So most of you do them individually. I just do them all. So the first one is Dr. Spiritual.
To pray.
Yeah. Who's your higher power? What are you plugging into to get your strength, get your energy? Like, what is that thing? Got to take a moment during the course of your day to plug in to the spirit, not religion, to the spirit. There's 2 different things in spirituality and religion. Tap into your inner core of your spirituality. The second one is meditation. Got to sit still. There is such a richness in being still. See, because a lot of time we pray and we talk to God and we think we're waiting to ask, we're praying for some answers. But you don't get to hear from God until you sit still. So you have to sit still and meditate, right? The third one is you got to drink some water and lots of it. It's the elixir of the gods. You got to drink water. You know how many of my clients would simply say, I don't drink water. And you dare say, well, what does that have to do with a habit? If you get in the habit of when you step your foot on the floor in the morning, or maybe after you go pee, you want to drink some water, a cup of water. It's like when you're sleeping, everything is rusted, right? It's a chance to breakfast, which is break fast, and that's how you break it. I break mine with warm water and lemon every single morning, you know, and it gets my body ready for what I'm about to abuse it with through the course of the day. It gets me ready.
How much water would you say is the optimum?
Well, as a personal trainer and a fitness expert, we generally don't have the body weight, and if you're athletic, 15 over that. So if you are 100 pounds, you should be drinking 65 ounces of water a day. So you can work your way from there from whatever weight that you are. But I just say to you, can you do the bare minimum, which is 64 ounces? Because if you can get there, you're good. You know, that is one of the things. I used to drink Mountain Dew by the cases. Oh my God, it was a drug for me. I had to have it. And I switched over to Pellegrino because I needed the bubbles. When I found out what the heck they put in Mountain Dew, I was like, what did I do? So you switch over and you find your water that's going to work for me. So now I drink mineral water by them. So you find your thing. Everything is not good for everybody. The fourth thing is your nutrition. How you think, how you move, how you interpret, how you react has a lot to do with what you eat. So even for when you look at your, I don't call it a diet, I call it a meal plan. When you look at your meal plan and what you're eating, whether you decide to be a carnivore, which is eat meat, you know, a pescatarian, which is just a fish, you know, a vegetarian, to a vegan, you know, whichever those course of board that chooses you, and I say chooses you, don't choose it. You know, let it sit inside of you, that's what you need. You know, I'm a pescatarian. I choose not to eat meat because I run and it weighs me down. So, but that's my choice, and when I did, it just made my body heavy. So be in tune to what you eat and what it's doing to your body and how it's making you feel. And again, if you don't like the way you feel, what do you have to do? And how are you going to change it? You're going to what? Change a habit. You're going to change what you're doing. That's right. Because even right here, if you feel stressed, if you're at work and you feel stressed, what do? Anybody? If you're at work, what do you do when you feel stressed?
I go for a walk.
Yes. When I was at the job, I feel stressed. I used to work on the 9th floor. Just so I didn't kill my boss, I ran downstairs and ran back up to 9. So that made me in a better headspace when I was there, because it can stress you out. And again, if you want to change the way that you feel, you got to change what you're doing and step away from the situation. And which brings me into the next doctor, which is exercise. So you got to exercise. So how often should you exercise? Anybody know?
How should you exercise?
How often?
4 times.
5 times a week. Every day. Anybody else?
Every day.
Every day. You eat every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
You eat every day. You should move every single day. Find your thing. And it shouldn't be where you can't do it anywhere you go in the world. I exercise every day. I have a regimen that I do no matter where I am in the world. So I happen to be called the gangster planker. I plank every day. Absolutely. I plank every day, anywhere and anything at any time. Because that's the one exercise that you can do. But that's my thing. And I thought it was so great, I just started a movement because I just thought it was a good idea. So now I have people planking every day around the world. You know, because that's something you can do anywhere. So you got to find that thing that's best for you. And it says, well, why did you choose planking? Because planking touches 6 muscles in your body at one time in 1 minute. You hit it hard, and you're done. And that's it. So you figure out something that you can do every single day. And you find something that you love. If you run, you can run anywhere. If you go into the hotels, most of them have, workout rooms. If you don't need it, or you bring a jump rope with you. The other thing is to get outside. You got to get outside in the sun. Most of us have a vitamin D deficiency. You know, get outside. There's healing powers in the sun. And then you just have to have fun. When was the last time you just laughed? Right. We're in business. Let me hear y'all laugh. Go ahead. Anybody? Listen, I can do it on demand. Yeah. You just have to laugh, and you should have a belly button laugh. That's another way to get your endorphins up. You know, we get so serious, especially when we work in. You know, it's just not that serious. I think as adults, we forget to play. Go play. Get a jump rope, get a hula hoop. On any given day, act like you 8 or 80. So if I ask most of you, we're on the 80 side. You know, you don't jump on that little kid side. Jump on a little kid and just let loose, right? And the last thing is definitely not overrated is sleep. And I believe I did give you 8. I gave you 8? Those are the things that you should do every single day to create a daily habit. So if you want things to change, you've got to have a habit that changes every single day, something that you're doing. Because what does habits do? It builds consistency. It makes you committed, right? You get determined. You know, so basically what it does is it switches your can I to a I can. Can I is complacent and not improving. Right? Complacent and not improving. Nothing's changing. I told you in order way to change, you have to do something different. What's your question?
I have a question because I have missed one of your doctor. One was spiritual, meditation, water, nutrition, exercise, love, sleep. I missed one thing.
Say that again?
Spiritual, meditation.
Air and sunshine.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what you have to do. So in order to switch your can I to an I can, right? So can I means what? Can I means complacent and not improving. So you want to flip that upside down. You want to say I can. And that means initiate something. So initiate a new habit. Have an intention. Make an investment. Time. Takes time to create a habit. So you're going to initiate, you're going to have an intention, you're going to have an investment. The C is be committed, right? Be consistent. Change and control. That's your C's. You pick the one out that works for you, right? So because you have to have some courage to be committed and consistent in order to control your change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And the A is, tell me, anybody know what the A is? Come on now.
I say achievable action.
Action. Come on. You gotta take some action. The A is action, right? And it's also attitude. Because we get stuck in our ways. You have to adjust your attitude. And then the N is just now. What's your question?
I have another A.
What's your A?
Doing it again and again.
Again and again and again. I'm going to use that. What's your name? I'm going to quote you once and then I'm going to take it.
I love that.
Again and again and again and again and then do it again. That's how that go. And the N is just necessary. Do it now.
Yes.
I have been seeing those 8 doctors for the last 30 years. It keeps you in a very harmonizing space inside your job. You get to create new habits. You get to change. You get to replace. So if you start that practice, your business will change. You will start to elevate. You'll start to see a difference. But more so than that, you'll start to feel a difference. Do you have any more questions?
Well, since the start of the year, I developed a new habit of exercising. But since last month, I've kind of fell off the train, right? Because for me, I feel like I have to work with a personal trainer to help me, stay motivated. And I use the app sometimes. But since I'm here, I haven't been doing any exercise.
So you want to blank? I mean, and I say that and I'm joking around. But one of the things is that when you do it, you're asking, and your question is, how do you stay in it? What do you do?
Yeah, especially if you have you're traveling, and so how do you keep?
That's why you find your thing.
Okay.
You find something that's fun. Because when you find something you don't mind doing, you will do it no matter what, without a trainer or with a trainer. So you have to find something that makes sense to you. As a trainer, I can tell you I'm there to push you and make you lift your leg and even hold your leg for you if that's what's necessary. But when you go on your own, you have to find something you don't mind doing. And have fun with it. It's just not that serious. So that's what you do to change. Any other questions before we wrap up? Anybody else? So who's going to do something different? Give me one thing you're going to change.
I'm going to meditate.
Meditate more.
Be more proactive.
In?
Doing whatever stuff I need.
No, that's too broad. Bring it in.
Increasing my running time.
So you're going to increase your running time. Be very specific so you can stick to it. What are you going to do? Differently.
I think if I cannot do yoga, I should be doing dancing.
Okay.
Well, I can do it anywhere.
Absolutely, and planking is a part of yoga. You can find your thing no matter where you go. What about you?
I usually like to do it in the morning, take some time, productive time. I plan to do it at night now, before I sleep.
And that's the plan. What about you?
Dancing.
Dancing. What kind of dancing? Okay, but it's going to add on.
Something
Very good. What about you two right here?
Just exercise.
Exercise. Same thing. More than walking. What else? Cardio. You too?
Currently I do like every 3 times a week. Now I want to do it every day.
Very good. Increase it.
Well, I'm going to find an exercise that works for me, and I think sit-ups will do that for me.
Okay, so you like core exercises.
Yeah.
Later on, I'll show you a few that you can just do just like that. What about you?
So play, have more fun, get out and play, be intentional, movies, hanging out with friends, dancing, anything that allows me to be in movement and just be excited in my brain.
So how would that transcend into your business habits?
So it would allow me to get things finished so that I can go play. Otherwise, I don't finish them, I can't play.
That's right, it becomes full circle. What about you?
I find my thing with the exercising, and I was thinking, yeah, planking, because I can even just do that in my office between clients. So.
Yeah, I have a nation called Plank Top Nation on Facebook. Go there. It's so many inspirational planking videos that's there. And even on my website, CandiceCamille.com, it's on there as well. I'll give you my card. Yeah, and you can do it. So what about you? I got a wrap. What are you going to do differently? Even though we're up here, we're all going to do something differently.
Yes, of course. I think I'll spend half an hour every day
Planning. Very good, and that's what you do. For me, like I said, I have my daily habits I do, but I'm trying to work my way up to planking for 2 hours. To this day, I am planking for 78 minutes. So I'm working my way up to it. So again, that's what I practice every single day, because my end goal is to get in the World Book of Records. So I'm playing my game here so I can get to my end game. So I create this habit every single day. Thank you very much for having me.
So if we could all come up here, I'll get a group photo.
Okay. Did you want him to take a group photo?
Come on, ladies. We're going to take a photo together. We take photos.
You see everybody? Telling you. Fight for us. It's real.
Okay, done?
Thank you. Okay, we good? That's right there. Thank you, everybody.
Miss LeBron, before you get in, thank you. All right, on to the next one.
Yes, I'm going to clarify. That is good, but I've been doing it for 497 days now.
Wow, that's impressive.
I'll show you something that will bring it right up. Thank you. Thank you. Let me show you something. Because I have one of those. Yeah, I'll show you.
Am I in your way? Are you okay? Or am I in your way? Okay.
All of this, yes, yes. It's amazing. Thank you. All right, so here's the deal. Oh, this is just my book. My book is Permission to Win. I don't have it in my book. Yes. Come on, let's go.
You got me down.
Subhas,
Coffee board.
yeah, yeah.
Let's go
Yeah,
find the
sir.
supplies.
Nice.
Very
Wait,
nice.
help me. Somebody to handle this?
Pen drive?
वीडियो प्ले करना था एक इसको बताएं बन जाता है मेरे से ये मैं टेस्ट करना चाहता हूँ गो जल्दी आ गए इसको शुरू से लेकिन फुल साउंड थोड़ा ज़्यादा कर दें।
Will be speaking in English or in Hindi?
अभी दिखाते हैं।
English, no?
ये देखिए।
Yeah.
Full screen. Aspect ratio ठीक था. It's good. इसका sound नहीं है.
I love the way you made it like a film.
ठीक है.
ठीक है. Rubbish is better. It is it's just awesome.
Impact होगा public पे.
Boy.
Picture बनाएंगे इसके.
Yeah.
It looks like a trailer, by the way.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's
It's
very nicely done.
You have for the set.
What do you do?
At least I have 4 people in the room.
Wonderful.
Hang on.
Just put in some.
Can we let a crowd?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to try. Just put it in the room.
I'll give a grab.
When will you be publishing?
आप बुक आउट है?
वो पब्लिक है, इंटरनेट पे मिल रही है, Amazon पे और फ्लिपकार्ट पे रिव्यूज आ गए हैं. किताब अप्रिशिएट बुक इज फार मोर.
Yeah, you can explain more.
This is like जल्दी से बता. This I made for wrestlers. और Indians को तो मुझे थोड़ा बहुत तो मालूम है. इसको ना मालूम. आपको बता देते हैं कंपनी वाला. Yeah, he's required.
Please come. Would you like to join us?
We're waiting for him. Yeah.
Pressure.
Okay, I think we should get some more.
All right.
Somebody's going to the washroom, somebody's just coming. We should get it.
वो चलने आपको बुलाए.
But they were like, oh, sir, can I just come in 2 minutes? No, that's amazing. It just moved you to, this moved you, so I can imagine what else moved me.
You also invited some friends.
Yes, yeah.
कुछ yes आया?
Learn to slap style. People have just deleted out, and they're now, reached a point where they're fed up.
Fed up and only 3, 4 on it, which will not be encouraging for next year if they want to do something like this. I don't think the agenda has been planned out. I don't think they because no marketing थोड़ा पैसे लगाए हैं, but you are supposed to have a proper agenda. No? People have to take that somewhere. And you're not looking at Jennifer Lopez always to come and speak. There can be some normal speakers who will make more sense. Achievers.
You need all these ladies.
So I think I don't know who has done. What I can feel right now is audience is also. I mean, you have to garner the audience from speaker to speaker. It's okay that he is laughing and joking about it, but that's just a brilliant one. He's speaking knowledge. Every speaker wants to be heard. You can't take it
That's what
lightly.
a few of them are saying. And like on a panel, forum of 2-3 speakers in every session. You don't have to have back to back.
No, you
Few sessions in afternoon, they will break up and then you can read it.
And how many such halls are there? Many. This is the other problem.
11 halls which you had to shut down.
They should have done it. You should just keep one big hall.
Correct.
Where, one after the other, there are
Let's see if I can get somebody else.
meetings happening,
Actually,
interactions happening. That's what people are coming here. Just because you don't have to pay. You don't pay for this, right? To attend this, you don't have to pay, है ना?
Depends. Some people are coming for one day, they have to. The question is like, how do you have these speakers also speak to mass audience and they you can also speak? So either have like half a day session
What I
of this.
see, they are not interested about the, they have raised money or something. And that's all. अब तुम लोग जानो, speaker के लिए तुम attract ही नहीं कर पाए. So the question is, why have you got a speaker like that?
And forget about the other part.
Yeah, which is not. They should speak like short term.
Yeah, the thing is, speakers are not for fixed time.
Yeah, why will you just
But they come from up, so they complete doing their work. When they
But it is also the respect you show. I mean, if you're calling somebody to speak at your forum, if you don't give that dignity and respect, what others will also do, क्या यार, तेरे यहाँ पे तो कोई पूछता नहीं है चाय
in
पानी.
the 7 days, they could have
Simple
kept
thing,
it
चाय
for
पानी
3
नहीं
days.
पूछते.
Actually, 7 days long, 3 days.
Long, yes, that's
Three days
the
is
problem. 3
enough.
days is enough.
You could have done it. No, you don't necessarily have to call everybody. 3 days, that's it.
Yeah,
But
they
maybe
are not
7
doing
days.
a G summit. Na?
7 days is too long.
उनको नहीं, they wanted to do something like the World Economic Forum that happened, but that is political people, business leaders, who लोग world wide problem discuss करते हैं. यहाँ पे तुमने women entrepreneurs को बुलाया. या तो make it like a trade fair. I don't think
anyone
the
come
agenda
and
is proper. Not very well thought. बोलूँगी.
तभी बोल रहे बोले.
नहीं, अनुराग को बोलना चाहिए. He will not speak if we are just 4 of us. It's already 4:45. 5:45 तक है उसका टाइम. 1 घंटा. अब 4 लोगों के लिए वो क्यों अपना स्पेंड करेगा टाइम? वो बोलेगा स्क्रू इट. Anybody would.
dancing this one since 5 days.
Oh, no, that's Samina. Hi, she's a friend of mine. She's a table tennis champion.
That's nice to see a player.
तुमको मेरा मैसेज मिला था 20 तारीख के
Facebook में?
मोबाइल WhatsApp 2 दिन पहले सुबह मैंने बोला हैव यू सेंड टू संध्या से यार इट्स माय फर्स्ट वर्कशॉप आई विल वेरी गुड वेरी उन्होंने ये भी करो तो चलो वेरी गुड आई विल माय फर्स्ट वर्कशॉप on well I'm calling it the universe and you. So it's about spiritual energy, it's about work-life balance, knowing yourself. So আমি তোমাকে WhatsApp করে অলরেডি কোনো বন্ধু থাকে এখানে মহিলাদের আর তুমি কিছু করার মধ্যে জানো তুমি
Do you want me to go there?
As your company, yeah, as your company, but maybe you should go there evenly, yeah.
Evenly balanced.
Yes.
I actually prefer standing rather than sitting down because the nature of the subject. So I thank all of you for coming because Subhas Bose is a subject which has been totally ignored in our country. People have forgotten him. So if one person comes to speak, or even one person is there in the audience, the subject material is important. It needs to be spoken about. There are multiple reasons why I wrote this book. It's taken me 20 years to research the subject of Subhas Chandra Bose. Because Subhas Chandra Bose, without doubt, was the most interesting story in the Indian freedom movement. Here was a man, a brilliant student at college and university, goes to Cambridge, enters the Indian Civil Service, the ICS, which was the heaven-born service, the most difficult exam to get into in the world, and cleared it. Was among 6 people who got selected that year. He stood 4th globally and had a career ahead of him, a fantastic career ahead of him. But he didn't want to do it. Even after clearing this exam, he resigns to join the freedom movement. He became the first and the only person in the history of the Indian Civil Service to have qualified and then resigned. The British government asked him to reconsider. He said, no, I don't want to do this. I want to serve my nation. He comes to India, becomes part of the national movement. The British imperial government at that time was very upset with this man. They put him in jail 11 times. They sent him to Mandalay in Burma. They exiled him to Europe. They just didn't want to do anything with him. He was the General Secretary of the Congress. He was the mayor of the second largest city in India, in the world, Calcutta. Yet, the British government didn't want anything to do with him. They wanted to isolate him, put him on the side. He traveled all over the world in Europe. He went all over being the ambassador of Indian freedom movement. And finally, he was persuaded to come to India to become the president of the Congress Party. The Congress Party at that time was the single largest resistance against the British Empire on earth. To give you an idea of what we were fighting at that time, the British Empire, from London, ruled 1/4 of planet Earth, had complete ownership of land and people of 1/4 of planet Earth. This was the closest humanity had ever come to world government. What the King in England wanted would happen under any circumstances. And yet, there was a resistance force in India called the Congress Party. And at 39, Subhas Chandra Bose became the youngest president of the Congress Party. Unanimously. He served for 1 year. And after 1 year, the people who ran the Congress Party, they were very upset with him. They wanted him to leave. They said, we will not want you to do another year. He was insisting, I want to do 1 more year. My work is incomplete. Mahatma Gandhi put his foot down and said, no, Subhash, 1 year is enough. We'll elect somebody else now. Time to go. Subhash Chandra Bose said, let's have an election. Mahatma Gandhi selected a candidate to fight that election on his behalf. Sitaramaya. For the first time in Congress Party, there was an election between 2 candidates, a very popular Subhash Chandra Bose, a young man, and Sitaramaya, an accomplished lawyer from Hyderabad. The nation went into poll, party. Mahatma Gandhi said, Sitaramaya is my candidate, his loss will be my loss. Yet in the election, Subhash Bose won against the candidate Mahatma Gandhi. Now the people realized what they were dealing with. This man was the voice of India. So the people who controlled power in this country at that time, they made sure that the entire governing council of the Congress Party resigned and refuses to work under Subhash Bose. Everybody resigned, forcing Subhas Bose into isolation and finally resignation. And he said, if I can't get the respect of the greatest man in this country, Mahatma Gandhi, I don't want to be president of the Congress Party, even though he was elected. And Mahatma Gandhi said that Subhas Bose is not an enemy of this country. Very important moment in the history of this country. Because at that time, there were two different viewpoints of how to drive the British out of India. He was forced to set up his own party, the Forward Bloc. And he remained an outsider in the system. Why did all this happen? Who were the people who wanted him out of the party? Who were these people who didn't want him to succeed? To find all of this, I wrote the book. Subhas Chandra Bose's story is also the most exciting story within the Second World War. Here is a man who is in jail in Calcutta. A man of no means, no connections, nothing, living in a cell. He decides to take on the British Empire and does it. How? He fakes illness. He comes to his house. One night, one of the most popular men in this country, somebody like Shah Rukh Khan, who everybody recognizes everywhere, every street, every name, every person knows his name, quietly disguises himself and escapes from a house in central Calcutta under police watch. Goes to Gomo by car, takes a train, travels by night to Delhi, changes a train in Old Delhi railway station, gets onto another train, gets to Peshawar, stays in Peshawar for a week, incognito, while the British government is looking for him all over the world. Crosses into Afghanistan through the Khyber Pass, in isolated roads, isolated places, in the middle of January when it's snowing. 43-year-old man doing that, climbing mountains, without any assistance, has never done it before, doesn't speak Pashto, doesn't know how the Afghans live, learns everything on the job, plays dumb, tells everybody he's deaf and dumb because he doesn't want to speak the language, he couldn't understand anything. Crosses into Afghanistan, reaches Kabul, which is not British territory. And from Kabul, spending 1 month there, while assassins have been sent from England to go and kill him in Kabul by the British government, he quietly escapes to Moscow. And from Moscow, he reaches, in the middle of the Second World War, Nazi Germany, Berlin. There are only two places on earth where he can live in isolation without the British chasing him. One is Italy, and one is Germany. These are the only two countries where the British spies cannot enter because the world is at war. And he's over there. At that stage, a very big change happens in the country. Japan enters the Second World War. Not only they bomb Pearl Harbor, they also bomb Singapore. They wipe out the British garrison in Singapore. Singapore falls, Rangoon falls, and suddenly Japan is standing at the gates of India on the border of Kohima and Imphal. Subhas Bose realizes at that stage that living in Germany, he can't do much. India is too far away. But he has to reach out to his people. His people want to hear where is Subhas Bose. Nobody on earth knows where Subhas is. There is no Twitter, there is no Facebook. Nobody knows what happened to him. He's disappeared. But there is radio. And radio was the Twitter and the social media of that age. On shortwave radio, Subhas Bose starts a station, Azad Hind Station. And he's speaking from Berlin to India, to his countrymen. Don't worry. There is a man out there fighting for you. We will get our freedom. India will be free one day. And this country is kept the flame of independence alive by the power of this man. But Germany is too far away. It's in war. It's being bombed every day. Japan is too far away on the other end. Subhas Bose wants to be in Singapore. The Japanese have raised an army called the Indian National Army. The Indian National Army doesn't have leadership. There's a crisis going on. Shah Khan, a young captain of the British Army, is volunteered to become a colonel in the Indian National Army, fight for the Japanese, along with the Japanese for Indian independence. He says there's only one man who can save the Indian National Army, Subhas Chandra Bose, get him to Singapore. The Japanese make their diplomatic efforts through their channels in London. Finally, at the end of the day, Subhas Bose gets a meeting with the Führer. It's a disaster. Subhas Bose doesn't agree with most of what Hitler is doing in Germany and the rest of the world. Though he's living in Nazi Germany, he's their guest. He tells him, your attack in Russia was wrong. In your book, your mention of Indians is very racist. You should remove it. And Hitler looks him in the eye and says, India will not be free for 150 years. What are you talking, Mr. Bose? Bose leaves that meeting with just one promise, that Germany will put him on a submarine to reach Japan. Now this has never been done before. No civilian has traveled in a submarine from Europe to Japan on his own, with only naval personnel on the boat. When the German Navy comes to interview Subhas Bose about coming on the submarine, they tell him there's 97% chance that this submarine will not reach its destination. Will you do it? He says, yes, I will do it. You have never been on a submarine. You are not a sailor. Will you do it? He says, yes, I will do it. He gets on a submarine. He leaves behind his wife and daughter in Germany and enters a world of constant danger, because once you're in a submarine in a tightly packed tin for 3 months, there'll be no walks in the park, no coffee with the friends, no living in a big city, no sounds of trains, trams, nothing. He was 5'9.5" in height. The submarine was not tall enough for him. He had to bend all the time. He had to wear the same clothes for 3 months. He couldn't shave. He couldn't take a shower. And consistently, as the submarine is leaving Germany and heading towards India, through the Atlantic, it's being tracked and bombed by Allied bombers. Constantly. With great difficulty, it reaches Madagascar, where it has to now make the only change that ever happened, only exchange of civilians ever happened during the course of Second World War. Subhas Bose and his assistant Abid Hassan, they changed from the German submarine into a Japanese submarine. For 3 days, the Japanese submarine and the German submarine are traveling together near Madagascar. The waves are 60 feet high. They can't get to each other. At that stage, the Germans say, I think it's impossible, Mr. Bose. We'll have to go back. He tells the captain of the submarine, I haven't come this far to return back to Germany. I'm going to go ahead with my mission. So in the midst of shocks and the constant danger of being bombed and these high waves, Subhas Bose makes the change from one submarine to another submarine and reaches Tokyo. In Tokyo, he gets a very cold reception because they have not met many Indians and they don't know much about India. They think Indians are basically English-speaking, subjugated people of the British Raj. They don't have any value for their nationality. This is a nationalism-driven world. The Japanese are very nationalistic at that time. And here we have Subhas Bose, who goes to meet the leader of Japan, General Tojo. General Tojo gives him 15 minutes of his time in the middle of war to have a meeting with him. And General Tojo has a very low opinion about India. The moment he meets Subhas Bose, the meeting goes on for 45 minutes and he says, we have to call the entire cabinet for meeting this man. He has never met an Indian like him. And the cabinet meeting is decided that Subhas Bose will address the Parliament of Japan because they've never met anybody like him. And finally, he is walking in Singapore with General Tojo and taking charge of the Indian National Army. This is the summer of 1943. Mahatma Gandhi finally agreed to what Subhas Bose was saying all along. we should fight with the British when the Germans are fighting with them. This is their weakest moment. We can get our independence now. And he had already launched the Quit India movement. Every Indian leader was in jail. There was nobody outside except Subhas Bose in Singapore, leading an army called Indian National Army. Now Subhas Bose understood what nobody else understood. He understood how the British Empire works. The British Empire employed three simple devices to run itself. Device number one, the Indian Civil Service. With the Indian Civil Service, they had complete control over the revenues from this nation to take money out of our country and make England rich and maintain law and order within this nation. The second was the British Indian Army. They used the British Indian Army to manage the borders of India and internal troubles. And the British Indian Army was very well designed. It was totally divided within regions and religions. There were multiple kitchens. There were multiple war cries. It was a complete division of this nation. They never wanted the army to be together. And the third thing they did, they fractured this country into Hindus and Muslims. And they made the Hindus fight the Muslims and the Muslims fight the Hindus so that England could become richer and India could become poorer. Subhas Bose completely understood this strategy. First of all, he became the first Indian to accept employment in the British Indian Civil Service. First Indian and the only Indian to resign after being qualified. He knocked off the charisma of the Indian Civil Service. Secondly, he set up the Indian National Army on a completely new format. One kitchen. Same kitchen every soldier will eat from, irrespective of where he comes from. One slogan, Delhi Chalo. Taken from the mutineers 1857 in Meerut. 10th May 1857, 160 years ago. This slogan was heard in this country for the first time, Delhi Chalo. Same slogan Subhas Bose used for INA. Let's go to Delhi. We will go to Delhi, our flag will fly on Red Fort and we will march in front of Red Fort. That will be the victory of the Indian National Army. That was his way. That was his motivation. And he was a man who was willing to not only live for this country, he was willing to die for this country. He came up with the most brilliant slogan of the entire Indian freedom movement, Tum mujhe khoon do, main tumhara saathi dunga. Nobody had the power of words beyond Subhas Bose. What happened next? Why did the Indian National Army not reach Delhi? How did we fall apart? To find all of these things, I wrote this book. Subhas Chandra Bose created the single biggest fear in the British imperial mind. And that fear was that the British Indian Army will revolt. Because every member of the British Indian Army had a relative, cousin, brother, somebody very closely related, associated in the Indian National Army with Subhas Bose. Because Indian National Army basically came out of the prisoners of war of the Indian Army. The INA, for the first time in the history of the world, had a regiment of women warriors. We talk about gender parity in 21st century. Subhas Bose was fighting a war in 1943. Captain Lakshmi said, at that time, Dr. Lakshmi fought for the Indian National Army. For the first time, Indian women wore military uniforms, fought with guns. Never before in the history of India, on such a scale, had a regiment been formed for fighting. It's true, the Indian National Army lost in Kohima, they lost in Imphal, they retreated from Rangoon, and finally they evacuated from Sinha. But in reality, they actually won. when the Second World War ended, the entire group of Indian National Army soldiers who were captured by the British were brought by a strange coincidence to the Red Fort where Subhas was wanted to come. And they were imprisoned here. So they came to Delhi as prisoners, not as victors. And then the strangest thing happened in the history of India, which we never talk about. It's called the INA trial, the single biggest trial this country has ever seen. The British isolated 3 soldiers, 3 officers, the Indian National Army, to try them as war criminals at the Red Fort. And those 3 people, Captain Prem Sehgal, Captain Gurbakh Singh Dhillon, and Captain Shahnawaz Khan. 3 men representing 3 different main faiths of this country. Hindu, Muslim, and a Sikh were being tried by the British as war criminals. All of a sudden, magic happened in this country. Subhas Bose was not there, but this country became one. The Congress party by now, at the end of the war, had come out of prison. They realized there is no such thing as INA, such a big opportunity has never come here. At a time when a section of this country was effectively demanding the breaking of this nation into 2, country had become one because of the INA. That year, 1945, Diwali was not celebrated in Delhi because 3 men were lost in jail at the Red Fort. Lal Kile ki diwarein tod do, Sehgal, Shahnawaz, Gurbakh ko chhod do. This was the slogan in this city. Now, the best legal minds in this country, 15 of them combined, including Jawaharlal Nehru, who took on a barrister court after 30 years, to fight the case for these 3 men against the British Empire. And in the end, they lost. The British Empire won. These 3 men were sentenced to Andaman Islands. Their careers were over. But then, the final decision had to be taken by the general of the British Army to throw these guys out as war criminals. By then, every single Indian was willing to revolt. And not only that, the entire British Indian Army, which ruled this country, was willing to kill their officers, British officers, and get us free. At that moment, this man decided to set these 3 people free. And these 3 men were just allowed to go out free. Even though the court has sentenced them, they were allowed to go because the British Empire couldn't risk putting these 3 men representing Subhas Bose and the Indian National Army as war criminals, who were patriots, not criminals. That moment, 31st of December, 1945, India won its freedom. Actually, that moment, the British Empire lost to one man, Subhas Chandra Bose. That is why I wrote this book. We won our freedom not because of civil disobedience and Gandhi March and Salt Satyagraha and all of that stuff. We didn't. Each Quit India movement, everything was squashed. But the Indian National Army was not squashed. 38,000 soldiers captured by the British had to be let go. Not a single trial progressed beyond this. All of them were left. And then calamity hit the British Empire. The entire Indian Navy revolted in the February of 1946. Every single naval establishment in this country wrote Jai Hind on their ships and started beating and shooting their British officers. Country was up in revolt. It was time to leave India. Simultaneously in Jabalpur, the Indian Army, under the British officers, came out on the streets with big banners and posters of Subhas Bose. And when challenged by their officers, they said, shoot us, but we will fight for India's freedom, not freedom. We will not fight for the king anymore. We have found a leader, Subhas Bose. We will fight for him. With all of this happening, simultaneously, in England, a decision was made that please evacuate India, leave India, let it be, we can't rule over it anymore. It's becoming impossible. freedom came to us thereafter. These are aspects of Indian history which are not talked about. These are aspects of Indian history which have been ignored for political reasons, for other reasons. Our school books don't talk about Subhas Bose. Our school books don't talk about the Ivy trial. That is why I wrote this book. Subhas Bose was the only Indian national leader who took on the British Empire in the battlefield. He was the only person who risked his life at all given moments to win us our freedom. And tragically, he was the person who was forgotten immediately after Gowri. This is the 70th year of Indian freedom movement. We got our independence 70 years ago. The first bullet fired for the Indian freedom movement was Mangal Pandey, March 23rd, 1857. It's 160 years. We don't value this freedom. Some of us don't even go and vote. We don't realize how many people died in central jail just to dream of the capability that this country will vote one day, will have its own government one day. How many people died in Jallianwala Bagh? How many people gave up their entire fortune just to support the freedom cause? It's very important for us to look back and see where we started, to value what we have, and to make this nation a nation which the founders of this nation, the people who gave their lives, who sacrificed everything they had, dreamt of. We can still do it. We can keep Subhas Bose's memory alive by following him in action. As long as we follow Subhas Bose as an ideal in this country, India will become what it is designed to become, what is intended to become, what is God's wish it becomes, a world leader. Thank you very much. I can take a few questions.
Thank you. That was a very, I would say, yes, that was an eye-opener, I would say, about Subhas Chandra Bose. A lot of facts that not many of us have known. We do know that he was a great freedom leader, but how India got freedom. Though we know Mahatma Gandhi was the key freedom, who led the key freedom movement, but having to know that Subhas Chandra Bose also plays such a vital role and important role in our Indian history, I think this book will really move corners. So having said that, let's have some questions from the
What
audience.
happened to Subhas Chandra Bose? What actually happened to him? I mean, after when he was in Singapore and after the war, what happened? Where
You want me to sit on the mic or I can just...
You are pretty much audible. Like,
Yeah. You need the mic? What do you want me to do? Whatever you want. So, there have been 3 inquiries done by the Indian government. They have been inconclusive. There have been about 6 inquiries done independently. They have come to some kind of a conclusion. Most of them point towards some kind of a plane crash in Taiwan, which is semi-documented. There is not enough evidence. I have researched every single aspect, every single theory as to what happened to him. And still, there are facts which are not in public domain. But the likelihood of him having lived as a monk in some temple in India is 0. The chance of him having been captured is 0. He was not a man who would hide and seek. He was a brave man. He would face history and the people of his country as he would have wanted to. And if he had appeared at the time, naturally he had not died or was disappeared or was missing at that time, this country would not have got divided. This country would have been completely different in shape, complexion, and the nature of this nation. And the British knew that. So when people kind of talk about what happened to him, spent 20 years doing this, I have realized now a lot of energy is wasted on that. A lot of time is wasted on theories and conspiracies and what happened to him and why he didn't do this and why he didn't. I think what we should do as a nation is try and now appreciate in 48 years what he achieved. What was his real success? What was he about? Rather than what happened to him after he went away. Because that's one. And my own theory about what happened to him is in the book. I feel some answers are still there in London. People who feared him the most probably had some kind of a role in his disappearance. And then they messed it up by creating these theories so we will keep finding out for the rest of our lives. That's all.
Does he have a family? Did he have a
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting his daughter.
Oh, he has a daughter.
So Subhas Bose fell in love in Europe with his secretary, Emily Shanklin. He met her in Austria. At that time in Nazi Germany, you couldn't formally marry a non-white person. So they had some kind of a marriage relationship. And Anita was born just 2.5 months before he left Germany. So he met her only once, and he left a photograph, a signed photograph for his daughter, which still hangs in her house. She's a professor of economics in the University of Oxford, retired now, lives there, she's in her 70s. If you look at her, you can second say that this is Subhas.
Is she a part of your book?
Yes, she's part of my book, but she's not endorsed this book or anything. But I had the fortune of meeting her at her house and her husband and her family. She gave me many insights about his life, his personal life, which I put in the book. I mentioned her in the book. And also after I wrote the book got launched on Subhas Bose's 120th birthday, 23rd of January this year. Mr. Subhash Ghai, film director, launched the book for me at the Indian International Center. Anita Bose wrote a personal letter to me about the book. Congratulations. So I appreciate it.
Any more questions?
You know, in Afghanistan, what exactly, it was just in Kabul where to get away from,
What was the role or what was the aim of staying in Kabul for a month to get?
So to understand this, you have to see that where the world was in the winter of 1941. Europe was at war. Subhas Bose had some family in his wife/his friend in Germany. And the rest of the world was governed by the British Empire. So he had to escape from British-owned territory, to escape the British police. Because the British secret police was after him. They wanted to find him, they wanted to jail him. And actually, during that period while he was in Kabul for a month and a half, assassins had been dispatched from London to kill him. It's all public domain. The British wanted him dead. They don't talk about it. But you can, if you read through, you find out that this is what it was. They were really scared. Because if they lost India, they lost the British Empire. And that's exactly what happened. They lost India because the army was willing to revolt. And immediately after that, the empire disintegrated because the armies elsewhere wanted to revolt.
Sri Lanka also got it.
Everybody got independence because of this one man. Because the central piece controlling the world was the army. And if the army revolts, everything falls apart. Anybody else?
I'm from Imperial. Where can you get your book?
Amazon now. I think Amazon.
Amazon.
I think they deliver worldwide. Are we done? Thank you very much.
Can we have a group pic now?
Yes, group pic.
Come, please, you want to come?
One more lady is running up. Wait, wait, wait.
People come back. Please come.
I just came into that. I think he's going to Mali.
Done? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, lovely meeting you. Oh, thank you. I really
I'm so happy you
Yes, this is my first copy.
Especially the clips are beautiful.
Yes.
The trailer tells you, it sort of inspires, and you know you got a film, but unfortunately it's being suppressed and removed from history. They haven't allowed him to get his due recognition and.
But I don't know why the Indian government stopped that. But I think movies now.
Trying to, BJP is. I would say it would be more the Gandhi family orientation.
Okay.
But it's amazing, yeah.
We can do it ourselves. Why do we depend on them?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's true.
That's why I wrote the book now. How long will you wait for governments to do things? It's best to do it yourself. Absolutely.
adding